He's not. We're not letting him do that in the NBA.
But you're not just dribbling it through me like the Harlem.
The Spurs ain't close to winning no championship, young fella. Y'all probably ain't gonna make the playoffs next year. So this notion that just cause you getting all this hype and you've been kicking ass in France all these years, that don't mean nothing when he step on the court next year. He got probably gonna be the third best team in Texas. Just in Texas.
The first pick of the 2023 NBA draft, Victor Wembanyama has been probably the most talked about prospect since LeBron James. The Frenchman has been followed by scouts, coaches, and players for the last couple of years and was named the next big thing. Wemby's hype is so big that people started talking about him being in the GOAT conversations when his career is done, how many MVP awards he is going to win, and how many championship runs he is going to have. All of that before playing his first minute as an NBA player. But still, there are some people who don't jump on the hype train and are either more patient or less impressed with Wemby's previous accomplishments. Let's see who they are and what they have had to say. Rasheed Wallace is one of the more underrated centers from the 2000s NBA era. Since his retirement, he has been in and out of the basketball world, but has still kept his name mentioned in the community. Wallace is a believer in Wemby, but doesn't think that he is a ready project yet. This dude is 7'4", probably like 2'10". I think it's going to be tough on him a little bit, man, with him being so thin. If you look at the majority of the centers around the league today, they are not thin. To be that size and be capable of handling the ball that well, that's impressive. But I have also seen him getting his ass busted before. So, he is going to have to figure that out sooner rather than later, especially with being the #1 pick. That is going to add extra pressure on that. However, I am sure that he is going to get good development with Tim Duncan and David Robinson. I will definitely be watching. There have been talks about the Spurs playing Wemby at the 3 spot, so he doesn't have to suffer as much bullying in the paint, but we'll have to wait and see. However, with Victor's work ethic, it is probably a better bet to think that he is going to put on the size needed, just like the Greek Freak has managed to throughout his career. Paul George is one of the pieces of any hope the Los Angeles Clippers have of a championship run. Even Paul knows that he can't do it all by himself. He will need a strong team to back him up, and one of his teammates that he is fond of is Nicholas. Recently, George spoke about the type of player Nicholas is and even shared some stories on his podcast. One of them was about 2 years ago, when George dismissed Nicholas' praise for Victor. I do remember when he was bringing up the whole Wemby discussion. I didn't know who he was talking about. But he was explaining this kid who was 8 foot tall, no jokes. He's almost 8 feet, and I was like, come on. We all would have heard about this player if he's 8 feet tall. Victor has been getting massive hype around him, but to compare it with what LeBron James got back in 2003 is where the now Milwaukee Buck, Damian Lillard, draws the line. The majority of the people, including sports analysts, NBA players, and fans, all hail Wemby, with his hype being compared to that of LeBron James. Dame, as he is known, does not think the hype Victor is getting should be compared in any way to what LeBron James got back in 2003. In a tweet in late May that has since gone viral, Dame tweeted, "I was in 7th grade when they were hyping Bron on ESPN, and he's still at the top 20 years later. So stop playing with this dude, it's getting out of pocket." The latest #1 pick has a bright future ahead of him, and if his cards play out well, he could have a journey down the lane similar to the one LeBron has had, but it's still early to say so. Interviewed by his friend and colleague in an episode of the podcast P, Draymond Green spoke about the Golden State Warriors, where he re-signed for 4 years, but also commented on the #1 overall pick in the 2023 NBA draft. Involved by the host Paul George on how to guard Victor, Draymond Green didn't seem too impressed by the French potential generational talent. "You are not just dribbling through me like the Harlem Globetrotters. I'm sorry, don't get me wrong, he's a phenom. And one of the best things to happen to him was going to San Antonio and Coach Pop. That infrastructure is going to teach you how to be a pro. And their player development is unmatched, so I think that's huge for him. But some of the stuff is just, come on." Then Draymond added some more of his thoughts on Victor. "Again, special talent, and to even do some of the stuff at that size takes a special talent, but you gotta press into him. You can't let him get comfortable. You let him get comfortable, you lose because you can't block his shot. He may not even see your hands. So with a guy like that, you gotta do your work early. I'm crowding him from the time he starts running down the court. When they get the rebound and they start coming, I'm crowding because I can't let him get to a space where he's comfortable. If you do that against talents like that, ain't anything you can do to stop that. So for me, I'm all the way pressed up into him, Draymond Green went on saying about Victor. If there is a guy that is a forever doubter, that would be inside the NBA's own Charles Barkley. Chuck was a great player and is an NBA legend, but he has always raised some questions when future stars have emerged. Charles Barkley is not convinced by Victor just yet. He looks like he's great, but you really can't tell until he gets to the NBA. Chuck thinks the NBA's physicality is going to be a huge adjustment for the French talent. Everybody wants this kid, and he looks like he's great, but you really can't tell until he gets to the NBA. I mean, he's going to be playing against grown men, and he's going to have to guard those guys on the other end also, which is going to bring him into foul trouble. Listen, I have been in the NBA for 40 years, and I ain't seen but one guy who didn't go to college, who came in and who was ready, and that's LeBron. Bryant was great, he struggled early. Kevin Garnett was great, he struggled early, Chuck pointed out. He is the next this, he is the next that. Like, how many people did Michael Jordan kill? We've been for the last 40 years like, well, he is the next Michael Jordan. And we never had another one. We killed guys like Howard Minor, Roy Marble. Like all these guys, I want to see the kid play, I hope he is great. I can't sit here just because he is killing people over in the Czech Republic that he is going to come over here and dominate. I just don't believe it. Decided to take a look at a few areas that might. Dave Portnoy is a Wemby doubter. The Barstool Sports founder revealed his thoughts about the French sensation minutes after he was drafted by the San Antonio Spurs during NBA draft at Barclays Center. I gotta be the only person on the planet that doesn't think Victor is a sure thing, Portnoy said in a tweet. That body screams breakdown to me. He then followed up this tweet with another one. Don't get me wrong, I'd obviously draft him, but I feel like guys like that always break down. CBS Sports analyst Colin Ward Henninger published an article on why people should have at least some doubts about Victor's NBA future. At 7'4", his skills and makeup are off the charts. He puts on dribbling exhibitions, swats shots into the stands and knocks down Dirk Nowitzki fadeaways. Then Wemby goes and does something that we've never seen before, only adding to his legend. But, as we know, sometimes more than we like to admit, players fail to live up to expectations. And in Wemby's case, they're as lofty as any prospect since LeBron himself. Since we've all spoken so much about Victor's strengths, we decided to take a look at a few areas that might end up holding him back. The major selling point for Victor is that we've never seen a player at his height move the way that he does. Well, that could also be a negative. Nobody ever wants to bring up injuries, they're horrible, and we all hope Wemby has a full, healthy career. But the concerns are obvious with his 7'4" frame running the floor like a gazelle and leaping like an impala. I just think it's going to take him more time to adapt to the American game, to put on weight. Another thing is that even though we've all seen the one-legged three-pointers and step-backs with defenders draped all over him, when Wemby's season ended, however, he had made just 27.5% of his three-pointers on 5 attempts per game. The season prior, he shot 26% in 16 Pro A games. He needs to work on his outside shot in order to take his game to the next level. In an interview, Charles Barkley's Inside the NBA colleague and another NBA great big man, Shaq, said, "He's not very big, he's tall, but he's building up a lot of muscles, not that strong." Obviously, Shaq and Chuck were physical powerhouses back in their day, so no wonder they point out other players' physical weaknesses. Experts believe Victor will be a big success in the NBA. His work ethic and dedication to the game are equally notable, as he is known to spend hours analyzing his opponents and developing his game. And that effort is guaranteed to pay off. So, with all these doubts mostly surrounding his lack of size for his height, it is only a matter of time for Victor to put on some muscle and turn his weaknesses into strengths. Let's hope for the best for the young Frenchman who is definitely the NBA's next up.